The second edition of the Four Corners podcast starts right now. This is Carolina basketball.
Black holding high, goes to Daugherty. Daugherty in the double team, gives it back to Black with 20 seconds left to play. Goes back to Michael Jordan, jumper from out on the left, good! Michigan out of timeout. And Weber, front court, Carolina thought he'd travel with it. Weber, front court, Carolina with foul. He takes a timeout, they're out of timeout. Technical foul on Michigan.
Now gets it away to Donald Williams. Down the side to Stackhouse. Stackhouse streaking in on Park. Reverse dunk is good, and he gets fouled by Park. Oh, my goodness, what a dunk. Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out to hit. Long outside shot. Short rebounded. May. It's over. Carolina has won the national championship. Belton ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores. 17 seconds left. 89-72. And how about them Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
Matthews off the mark. And this year the confetti is going to fall for North Carolina. They're not going to be denied this time.
From HeelToughBlog.com, this is the Four Corners podcast, featuring your host, Josh Marlowe. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Four Corners podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. Josh and Anthony back with you, and as I promised when we were talking about Hubert Davis the other day, we are going to look at Carolina's roster under the new head coach of the Tar Heels, as since he's became the head coach, there's a lot of moving parts that have happened, a lot of fluidness with the roster as we expected. And so we'll dive right in with Armando Bacot. He is going through the NBA draft process without an agent, meaning he does have the availability to come back to college if he doesn't like what he finds out while going through the NBA draft process. And with COVID still going on, we don't know what it's all going to entail this year. Last year they didn't have a combine or anything like that, so interesting to see what the process will be like for Armando this season. Of course, he led the team in both scoring and rebounding a season ago. He does join Day'Ron Sharpe as another front court player that is going through the NBA draft process. There's been a lot of talk about Day'Ron Sharpe potentially being able to come back to school because his draft stock isn't where he thought it was probably going to be upon leaving. Still trying to find out and confirm if for sure if he signed with an agent or not. Of course, if he signed with an agent, he therefore forfeited his eligibility to return to college. The biggest note about this is that with the transfer of Garrison Brooks, if Armando Bacot does in fact stay in the NBA draft, Carolina's lost their top 6 post players from last season. That's worrisome, but considering last year that was the strength of this team, and as we're transitioning into the Hubert Davis era, and I do believe we're going to play a more modern version of basketball, you're still losing a lot of talent from what was the strength of your team from a season ago. So with that, I don't think Armando Bacot right now is an NBA player. I think him going through the process will benefit him, but if he does stay in the NBA draft, where does Carolina go from here?
Then you got to go into the transfer portal. I mean, look, you got a guy that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes out of the transfer portal, and Justin McKoy that we'll talk about here in a minute. But yeah, I mean, at that rate, that's about the worst case scenario that you could be looking at. And of course, there is some other news that we'll touch on as well, probably in this podcast around Walker Kessler. So see, that's the thing. It's so confusing as to exactly where they're at. But I'm going to be honest with you. I would be stunned. I mean, look, we're, with Day'Ron Sharpe, there are people that are saying that his stock is fluctuating up and down on draft boards. I'm going to be honest with you. If his stock is all over the place, people can't really figure out where they're going to put him in the first round. Some people even thinking he could maybe drop into the second round. I don't see any way possible that Armando Bacot is going to make an NBA roster anytime soon. And to be really honest with you, I mean, look, if you are in the second round, I'm not somebody that's, if I'm an NFL, if I'm an NBA scout or agent or whoever is helping these guys out, if I'm being truthful, I would tell them right out, look, if you want to have a chance to play in the NBA, you don't need it, then it doesn't make sense for you to go. If you get drafted in the second round, you are going to more than likely have to absolutely blow people out of the water at the G League level, or else you're not going to make the NBA. It's just that simple. So if you're Armando Bacot, there's enough things that you can build on to where you could maybe eventually get yourself into the first round of a draft. It'll probably be the back end of the first round, but I think there's enough there with him that he could get to that point. I just don't think he's there right now. But let me be clear, because it seems like a lot of people that read the article that I posted the other night didn't really get that I was conveying this as well. I don't think he's going to go to the NBA and stay in the draft this year. I think that what he's doing is he's going and, he'll go through the combine, everything like that, and just get some reviews. People will tell him where are areas he has to improve. He'll probably be able to do a couple of interviews to learn what that process is like, and then he'll return to school. This is something that the NBA does that I really like. I think the NFL is some, they need to adopt this as well, to where you get to experience what it's like. You get a real gauge on where people feel that you're at, not some person that pretty much their job is to get you to leave college early to go and be a part of the draft. That's what these guys that give you these reviews to get you to go and enter your name into the NFL and NBA draft are there to do. I think what they do at the NBA level is the way that things should be. This is a good chance for him to just learn where he needs to improve if he wants to play at the NBA level. Really, I think it will also help him at the college level as well, because there'll be some areas of his game that maybe he didn't realize that may need a little bit of work that they'll be able to point out to him. So ultimately, I feel like it's going to be a good experience for Armando. I wouldn't be too nervous about him. When it comes to Day'Ron Sharpe, I mean, look, there's some conflicting reports out there. I feel like we thought he was pretty much all but gone, but as we've learned over the last day or so, it may not necessarily be the case.
Yeah, I mean, for Armando Bacot, he comes back, you get your leading scorer, you get your leading rebounder back. He could be the centerpiece of your front court, which right now you don't have, because you've lost 4 guys to the transfer portal and 2 guys that are currently in the NBA draft process. I'm not as in tune with the NBA game as I am the college game, but I can tell you this. His game right now doesn't fit what the NBA wants from a big man. So hopefully, and we saw a lot of guys do this once they adopted this rule. Joel Berry, Luke May, all those guys. They went through the draft process. They came back better college players. If I had to give him some advice, he still, in my opinion, needs to lose weight. Not saying that he's overweight, but he needs to lose weight, needs to get in better shape, and we need to see him display a more consistent 16 to 18-foot jump shot. He has it. He can step out and shoot that jump shot. He did it this season, but it wasn't consistent. And at the NBA level, that's what they want from their 5 men. If he can develop a 3-point jump shot, that's even better, because the NBA game is all about shooting the 3-point shot. But
that's not required.
It's not required.
Though. For 5s, you do want to see him be able to space the floor a little bit, but you can make a living not being able to.
The thing that he did good this
shots.
Year that we were heavy on after his freshman year, he finished through contact a lot better, can still be more consistent around the rim, but he was able to finish. He got stronger, put some more weight on, and was tougher to defend around the basket. Needs to become a more consistent free throw shooter, but that's the whole Tar Heel team outside of Kerwin Walton, if we're being legitimately honest right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so, but you're right. This process that the NBA allows their guys to do, it's the one thing they have right about their relationship with the NCAA, because You allow these guys to go through the process, figure out where they stand, and then they return to college, usually better players, which makes the college product better. And when they get to the NBA, they're not underdeveloped players. And I think at some point the NFL will get to that. I think it's got to take. I know Nick Saban's been really big on it. Hell, even Mac Brown went on it this year because a lot of our guys set up the bowl game because of their NBA or because of their NFL draft stock at the time. So I do think at some point we're going to get to that with the NFL and the college football game. But ultimately, this is a great experience for Armando Bacot. I'm with you. I think there's a greater chance that he returns to Chapel Hill for his junior season, and he can return a much better player, a much more enlightened player. And I think people always worry about, well, if he comes back, they're coming back to improve their game to play in the NBA. I think if Hubert Davis was worried that that's one reason why he was coming back was to improve his draft stock, there'd be a conversation had, and he would tell him, like, look, you need to come back and make yourself a better player for Carolina, and that'll take care of yourself at the NBA level.
Well, the other thing is, look, I don't understand the mindset that guys coming back to improve their NBA, like, that should be a goal of just about every player, too. Like, look, these guys, the ultimate goal for most of these guys is to make it to the NBA level. I'm not going to criticize them for that. I mean, that's what, any sport that you're in, I don't think that a lot of those guys go to college and say to themselves, you know what, I'm just here to play the college game, and then after that, I'm done. I mean, look at some of the best players in your program's history. Think Tyler Hansbrough took that mindset? No, Tyler Hansbrough wanted to go on and be successful in the NBA. He was built for the college game, and I also think his situation in Indiana wasn't great that he got drafted into at the time, but that's a different story. But you talk about him, talk about James Worthy, talk about Michael Jordan. Like, yeah, these guys had goals to make it to the NBA. I'm not going to criticize these guys. I think, look, Armando, there is nobody on this team, I don't think. And Roy Williams said this when he was talking about these guys multiple times throughout the year and even in his retirement press conference. These guys didn't want to miss shots. These guys didn't want to lose. They weren't out there saying, oh, this is great. At least Day'Ron Sharpe wasn't out there saying, well, I'm helping my draft stock, so I think it's great that we're losing. I don't really care. I'm helping myself out. No, I don't think anybody's taken that mindset. So I'm not really worried about that. I think ultimately, like I said a minute ago and like you said, this is a good opportunity for him to learn a lot about himself from these evaluators. It's another set of eyes that can look at you and tell you, this is the area that I think you need to improve. And it's going to be multiple people telling you, so you will learn. There will be, a lot of people that have similar areas that you need to improve. And in your mind, that will tell you, look, this is where I need to be a better player if I want to get where I want to get to, or if I want to be a better player at the college level. So I don't see any problem with this at all. I think this is a great opportunity for him, and we'll just have to see. But yeah, I will say this: if he was to stay in the NBA draft, I don't know if I would say. I wouldn't say stunned. I would be shocked.
Yeah.
I would be that would catch me off guard for sure.
You mentioned the transfer portal. We'll head there next. That was something that Hubert Davis said, and in his opening press conference, that Carolina is going to use to their advantage to add talent to the roster. And right now, he is going to have to rebuild his roster through the transfer portal. You lost Garrison Brooks on Friday night. That was a decision that I think got delayed because of the retirement of Roy Williams. I think had Roy Williams not retired, I think we would have gotten this announcement a lot sooner. We've been expecting this since the season ended, that Garrison Brooks was going to leave. And, I put an article out, and it got a lot of negative reaction from the Carolina fan base. And, look, he didn't have a great senior season. He knows that as much as we know. And I was hard as him on anybody on this podcast, on the blog, just as a Carolina fan, about his play, because his level of play dropped from his junior season to his senior season. He doesn't, and he'll tell you that. He still gave us 4 years. He still committed to Carolina at a time that Roy Williams was having to, I'm not going to say beg to get guys to come play for him, but the NCAA was still on campus, so we were still recruiting guys that we're not used to having to recruit because of that cloud hanging over the program. And He started 108 games, did a lot of special things. His junior season was one of the best individual